zone lines Rock Fork Middle School, Rocky Fork Middle School. Before we get to that, we'll have our Pledge of Allegiance led by our director. Thank you, Mr. Oldham. Tonight, our call meeting really is for the sole purpose of discussing Rocky Fork Middle School, our new middle school that will be finished by the next school year. And Mr. Morgan is here tonight to talk to us. Mr. Oldham, I know you want a couple of preliminary remarks. So,
I did prepare for you today. I ran this about 5 o'clock this afternoon. Some membership compared to the third month again. The third month ends on November the 5th, I believe, for us this year. So you're still running around that 1,000, showing 996 today. I do find that the last week of the month we tend to lose students as they're moving, and they come back the next week. Right after fall break, you're likely to see new students because people tend to move over those periods of time. So this number is probably a little bit lower than what it'll actually be here when we come back. But anyway, pretty good thing for you to kind of see the growth for this year. And Mr. Morgan is going to present his draft of some possible areas to look at rezoning. To bring you kind of up to date what we've done so far, he's prepared this, brought it to several of us up here at the central office, look at it. Mr. Snell's looked at it from a transportation standpoint. Also, we brought 3 principals in also. The Smyrna Middle, the Stewart's Creek Middle, and Rock Springs Middle principals, because sometimes principals look at it and look at the lines and can see things that we might not think about or see in relation to that, to give them a chance to, did they have other suggestions or changes? And actually, they looked at it and did not see any big issues with this particular design we have tonight. But certainly the prerogative of the board to change it any way that you would like to do that. We have our first hearing Wednesday with parents. Might say that 2 or 3 times at Rock Springs Middle School. So people can come and express their opinions related to this. But Mr. Morgan, will you kind of take us through this draft and let the board kind of see it and then comment on it, please?
Yes, sir. On page 1, you see a demographic breakout of the zone as it would be after acceptance. The basic idea and the drive that was given to me by the staff here was the big thing was to balance out the full number between those 3 zones that would be affected, which would be Rock Springs, Smyrna, and
it's the same as actually their sheet on there, if it's taken a minute to read.
Yeah, and Stewart's Creek. Also, another big concern was to try to alleviate as much free and reduced out of Smyrna Middle School as possible, and the key number there was 70%. So as you can see, I've gotten that number down to 67 with this preliminary view. Any questions on that page? Okay. The second page gives you an idea of, from each one of those 3 zones that we are going to touch, what would be the total amount of students that we'd be pulling from each one of the zones. The Smyrna area is kind of broken up in 2, but that's roughly 240. From Rock Springs, you have another 190, and from Stewart's Creek, 270.
Clarify for us now, did you pull, is this 5th through 7th, because this would take effect the next year, or is this current numbers and kind of anticipating the same?
And these are current numbers that are projected into it. I didn't add any growth onto this yet. I've got another outlay here that actually shows what our current trend is, which is about 3%. We use generally, Mr. Sandvig uses anywhere between 2.5% and 3% for projected growth from year to year. So you're probably talking about another 30 to 40 students per.
This does not include rising fifth graders?
No, it does not. And, you know, another part of the reason that I didn't was, you know, when we work anywhere in the southern part of the county, we have to exclude that because we don't know how many fifth to sixth graders we're going to get from the city. It's an easy number to project forward in a growth increase of 3%. And it more than covers what we usually get. The next 3 pages are just kind of gives you an idea of how each feeder school, how each feeder zone is kind of broken up. One of the other things I tried to do, especially in the high school, was to keep that contiguous line between the transition from middle school to high school. That's one of the biggest complaints that we generally get from parents is, you know, my son, daughter has been going to school with the same kids for X number of years, and I want to try to get them, you know, can you grandfather us, please? In this case, hopefully we wouldn't have to do as much of that. And these 3 maps also give you an idea of where those siblings would be located, in case you were wondering for that reason as well. The K through 5 are displayed by the red, and they get increasingly smaller as they get older. 6 through 8 is yellow, 9 through 12 is green. And then all the other blue dots that are on the page, those are single student homes.
And you can kind of see, if you look at the 5th grade, you see 167, and the 6th grade is 174. So if you project it onto it, you're talking about less than 10 difference based upon the current numbers that's in 5th. What we're seeing.
Is it possible to get a breakdown of what the zones are now, and then what they look like in their entirety, this projected zoning?
Absolutely.
I think that would help the board too.
Yeah, I already have it laid out. Didn't want to bring it to this meeting because I wanted to get your comments back first. That, in a nutshell, is kind of what we're faced with.
So if the 5th grade is a little larger, maybe 10, 15 additional students, you would expect to open at about, if this were adopted, maybe 720, 725, something like that, maybe?
For the new school?
Yes, sir.
I couldn't see any more than that. I mean, that's still somewhat of the areas that we're looking at for the school are pretty well built out. You're not going to get a lot of new growth except for one area near the school on Rocky Fork Road. As this plan indicates, we've kind of gone off over on Mason Tucker and picked up a lot of that. There's no space for new homes there. All the way down Old Nashville Highway, across the street from Stewartsboro Elementary School, all that is pretty well built out and well established. And this doesn't include the 7 Oaks, but just all that stuff beside it has already been built out as well.
And our capacity is what, 1,000?
But you also have some approved lots and areas right around Rocky Fork Middle and Elementary. So where the front side of that hill is built out, the back side where we're building it is where developers now are telling us they intend to develop some more in that right around the school.
Right.
Is what we're saying. And I don't know whether we know how many lots, or they're still developing that or not?
We can get a pretty good estimate on how many lots a parcel of land can hold. I mean, that's easy enough to get. But the terrain, Mr. Clardy and I have walked a lot of that terrain right there between where the potential, or where the school is being built and where Hunters Point, the backside of Hunters Point subdivision is. And I'm sure, Mr. Blair, you can attest to that. It's really
They seem to
up
be,
and down over there.
they seem to be building like crazy right now.
That is true.
There's several, I think there's half a dozen homes going up right at that little cul-de-sac, but they can, going up the rise, you know, if they develop all of that too,
Yeah.
which I think there's plans too.
Mr. Morgan was planner for Smyrna before he came up here. And so he's looked at some of these same areas, and it's been a few years now, but he's looked at many of these same areas.
The subdivision, plan adjacent to the school, how many lots?
I'm not familiar with that one. I'd have to look it up. The last time I looked at any of the land over there, it was with us prospecting for the school site. So we haven't, and at that time, things had stopped on that, on those.
They're going now, so.
I'm reminded when I toured the schools, Mr. Zago was principal down there, and you told me this was gonna happen, that they were building like crazy. We're just really getting these schools down to, well, we are making progress. We're saving overcrowding, but this still leaves us with Rock Springs Middle will be larger. Smyrna Middle School will be larger. And Stewart's Creek will be about the same size as Rocky Fork Middle. That's proposed. I don't know what that means, but I'm just pointing it out. I mean, it's just another example, I guess, of tremendous growth.
Well, Rock Springs Middle today is 1092.
Right.
You know, just taking these numbers, you're looking at 884, so taking 205 or 10 out of it. The issue, if we take more out of it, is maybe it throws you on the other side of 266, so you begin to change right on their doorstep again.
Well, I wasn't necessarily suggesting that we take more out of anything. I was just, I guess, pointing out the obvious examples here of tremendous growth. We're going to open up a new school with 720 people or so, and we still have schools that are right at 900 with a capacity of 1,000. That doesn't leave, that's pretty tight, isn't it?
It is, and the other issue, I think, if you go down from Rock Springs Middle and you go down to Rock Springs Elementary, there is development in that area as you go down that way. So if we looked at including additional ones, that would that might be one. But again, you're taking them from very close to where they go to school now. You're not gonna pass the school, but you're gonna get close to it.
Yeah, the locations of those facilities that are built now make it cumbersome to try to zone the way you would like to. I know that there are a couple of pieces that I was uncomfortable with about, you know, kind of a patchwork that's displayed there, but there was no other way to do it unless you literally, as Mr. Odom kind of indicated, went right up on the school itself.
What, how many students are there in that Seven Oaks near Nissan and I-24?
roughly 100.
6th, 7th, and 8th.
Yes, sir.
And they go where now?
It's like Sturts Creek Middle.
Yeah. There are not 90.
Doesn't that area go to Stewart's Creek High?
It is?
Yes. And that line coming down the interstate and around
That same
Stewart's
line.
Creek, yeah, it would mock the exact same line.
Just trying to be prepared for the public hearing. One of the, I can see a parent asking us why we didn't, go down to Stewart Valley and put that in maybe Rocky Fork Middle and move some of the other students around.
Yeah, one of the big reasons was just what we just indicated was that zone line that hovers between the high schools. I wanted to make sure that those students stayed within their social group and went to that same high school if we could at all manage it. And this includes that entire middle school zone stays together.
Probably if you change that, you'd need to change them to Smyrna High for future high schoolers there, if you did it.
We could very well be faced with that,
Or else they'd be split,
or they would be split.
one or two.
Because then these are, the way these neighborhoods are built out, they're pretty tightly packed in. So if you want to nudge a piece out, you end up taking a large section or dividing a subdivision in half. Now, they were built in phases just like everything else, but you're going to carve out sections of an actual neighborhood.
That's also a common complaint that we get on zone exemptions when they get split like that as they move to another school. They want to stay with that group if at all possible.
Those will be questions that will be asked.
Yes, sir.
I think we have to say at this point, it's still open. We're looking at numbers and looking at other options. This is where we're starting, but we're looking at other options. Stewart's Creek High certainly is going quickly, and that is an issue for us. So if, when you start looking at that, 21, 27 today.
And the area between Stewart's Creek High School and Stewart's Creek Middle, all the way out to Independent Hill Road is going to explode, I suspect, with that subdivision on Independent Hill Road.
Mr. Morgan, the land that is north of Rocky Fork Road, west of 24, and bordered by Lee Road, was that given any consideration to go to,
To the other side of the interstate.
correct?
I did work up models that included that area. You get really close to Stewart's Creek High, or to the Stewart's Creek campus, and once again, I tried to mimic that line between the two, the high school and the middle school. But yes, we did consider that as we were.
Because that's largely an undeveloped area, right?
It is.
And you may have already said this evening, pardon me, I've been studying while you
Oh,
were
that's fine.
talking. Do we have any forecast of development in that area?
No, I haven't seen a lot in there. There's some on Lee Road now, because it comes out the back of the Montgomery Way subdivision. And I can see that just continuing to spread because it's a good buildable area. The other problem, of course, is when you start taking away from some of these areas and pulling from others in the northern part where there's a little bit more money to work with inside the family home, you're gonna change the demographic of this plan as well.
I guess I'm not really thinking, I mean, and I know you're referencing that area that, on one of these, you've got it labeled as 104. That's the number of students that area represents.
Yes, sir.
Right. So we don't want to diminish that area because that's helping us achieve what we want to do at Smyrna Middle School, right?
Yes.
Right, okay. And yet I am thinking if we have this largely undeveloped area there, north of Rocky Fork, east of Lee Road, but it is west of 24, is it prudent for us to go ahead and put that into the Rocky Fork zoning in anticipation of what it may grow to be, and it affects very few families?
Well, I don't think it will affect very few families for long because, again, that is in an area that is developing. Not only that, you're on the back side of, that literally is on the back side of the hill from Rock Springs Middle School. And that Montgomery Way subdivision empties out almost right in the middle of Lee Road.
But that's not the one on Montgomery Lane. Right. Right.
Yeah, I guess I wouldn't suggest that we go up to Montgomery Way at all, but just the area that is, in fact, I'm going to guess that that's a pipeline running through there,
Yes, there's a
the gas pipeline.
36-inch gas lines running through there.
Right. If we were just south of the gas line, that would be some very undeveloped area.
Sure. And I'll give you some quick numbers to kind of look at there. Currently, in all that area right there, there are 18 middle school students living in that block. That's it, just 18.
Right. And so it doesn't really change the numbers very much at all. And
No.
yet it does set us up for if that acreage in 6 years turns into 120 middle school students, then it's going to the right place, not Stewart's Creek that's already pushing capacity.
That was really the question that I was going to ask, but maybe in a different way. I'm not as familiar with this with this part of our county as Mr. Holliday is and Mr. Blair, and obviously you. But is this plan planning for additional growth, which we know is coming all over our county? Is this a good plan, do you think, for the enrollment of this school, which is going to open about 250 below capacity, which is fine, I understand, but you understand what I'm asking?
Yes, sir, I absolutely do. There's another issue that we're not considering with this, and it's the growth that happens on the other end of Almaville Road. This is a precursor to what's going to happen at Almaville Road and 840. The building is moving in that general direction. This isn't going to take care of the entire problem that we're going to be faced with in the county. It's one school for one area that we're trying to help fix.
As this plan's currently drawn, Stewart's Creek Middle would move to 734.
Yes, sir.
From, where we are today, from 1013 to 734. So you're approaching 300 that you're pulling out of there.
We'd have room at both places, Rocky Fork and Stewart's Creek Middle.
About some building lot numbers
Yes, sir.
that Smyrna is forecasting, and the county also that would particularly.
Of course, I can give you those numbers, and they've started building out. The last time that I met with this group, we did go over expansion of that area. I think I can lay my hands on it pretty quickly, but if not, I'll make sure that you get it. But one of the bigger areas that we spoke about during that last meeting was Independent Hill was one of them, and I've been in close contact with the planner, the principal planner over at the town of Smyrna, and Kevin Rigsby, and he's assured me that that's still going on, but they're waiting on some, apparently the developer's waiting on some things to happen.
That,
But, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
You're looking at probably, as Mr. Odom and I have talked about that, you're looking at it taking 10 years or so for that type of subdivision to
They
build
haven't
out all
moved
those
on that
phases.
one. They bought some of it, but they haven't moved at all on it. So
What I would like to know is, coming out, St. Francis kind of dead ends, and there's a construction thoroughfare right
Yes, sir.
there. I think they called that back end Hidden Hills,
Right, right.
and it comes off on Rocky Fork. I would like to know, because it looks like there's quite the opportunity there to build on both sides
That's right.
of St. Francis there. And I'd like to know how many lots are projected presently in that general area.
Sure, we can,
That's going to be adjacent to the school system, to the school complex. And I can't imagine the man hours you spent trying to put this together and, trying to equal out and balance the way you have, so.
what made it difficult for him is trying to keep kids going to the same school, to the same high school. I mean, we can make additional changes. Of course, we face one of two things. We split them, which it takes 2 to 3 middle schools to feed a high school. I mean, that's just a fact. It takes 2 or 3 elementaries to feed a middle. So, but it may be, well, we just have to make a decision. Do you also adjust your high school a little bit there with grandfathering to try to deal with it a little bit longer or not? I mean, that was his constraint. He could have gotten more than 720 there or so, but he starts splitting kids. So we have to decide which is best right now to do, and I'm not sure.
It causes a lot of angst.
It does,
when we-
it does.
If we do split.
But it may be what we have to do. I mean, you want it to last a few years.
I think what's difficult for parents to understand is trying to balance, the social economic situation of the campus. And when you look at this just at first sight, it's so cut up, and I understand it has to be cut up presently, but that's one of the criticisms I think that we'll receive right off the bat is that it's spaced out, if you will.
Stewart's Creek High School.
Do you have that overlay on your computer? You looked at it the other day where the high school overlays that. Is that it?
that,
And I know you had it. We showed it to the other day when the,
yeah, it's the copy that you have with the dark green line. It should be the last sheet.
okay. That's your high school, right? Kind of to the left and below is your Creek High, that green line?
Basically, everything on the, as you're looking at it, on the left-hand side of that green line where it's, and also the shaded area, that is all Stewart's Creek High School. Everything to the right is Smyrna, and there's a section to the north that's Laverne High School.
Does it make any sense for us to consider the potential zoning for Rocky Fork Elementary in this same thing when we talk about feeder schools and consistency and those kind of things? Or, you know, just why make it that much more difficult, Aaron? Is that the real reaction? Let's just do what we have to do.
Of course, I can put something together for you to give you an idea of what I think what I think the elementary school would look like, the zone would look like. It may be, in my opinion, it might be a little premature, but if that's what.
And
this
it may
board
be.
needs,
I
then
just,
serve your need.
yeah, I'm just having that thought of, do we do anything that just 1 year from now we go, oh, doggone, I wish I had thought about that, or, you know.
When you get to Stewart's Creek Elementary, of course, you start involving David Urey. You're probably going to go up and pick up some of Cedar Grove and all up there too, which is actually jumps this line again. If you consider the high school, it jumps it again. We're running into that. He actually did some early lines I saw earlier because I asked him the same question. So I know he's looked at it some too, but it really almost impossible to hold them from elementary through high school.
Oh, sure.
Simply because of that.
I mean, I'm sure you understand as well as anybody living in that area, the growth that's happened from north to south in the Laverne Smyrna area, the demographic changes with it. So it wouldn't just, if I showed you something now, it would be based on today's numbers, and it wouldn't be able, we couldn't include free and reduced lunch or anything like that with it, because we just don't know where those kids are coming from and what they look like.
Totally understand.
Board? Questions, comments?
I want to ask a question about the possible elementary zoning. If you use these same zones for elementary, why would the demographics change?
The part of the reason is because you're talking about a much tighter zone. Elementary zones are much smaller than middle school zones. So you're honing in on a demographic that we can't really count on at the moment. Of course, you know, we try as much as possible to put a school right in the middle of a zone, but it doesn't always work out that way. Stewart's Creek is, you know, and what I've been faced with, Stewart's Creek campus is somewhat of an anomaly. We have 3 school zones that literally the school sits right in the middle of it. And we're having to now impinge upon that, on what we have.
So you'll provide for us the present middle school zoning, zone map, what it looks like today without.
You've actually got that.
You have
computer
that.
too.
Do I?
Yes, sir. It's on the second to the last page. The lines are in
I
red.
have mixed my pages up, so.
The lines are in red.
This one with numbers, I think. Isn't that it? This one with the numbers. The red lines. The green lines were the high school.
Oh, I'm sorry, the green lines, I'm sorry,
The green lines are the middle.
are the middle school, the red lines are the elementary, and the blue, and the dark green are the high school, sorry.
Okay.
got it. There's also a label at the bottom.
Okay, I'm sorry, I
Existing middle school
missed that
overlay.
totally. My bad.
And again, that's also projected in the page that I provided to you that's got the numbers. In that case, the lines are blue. And the reason the color changes, I didn't want it to wash out when you were trying to determine which was which.
I think what Mr. Morgan needs tonight is other areas. You've given one that you'd like for him to take a look at, some projected development. What he really needs to know for sure tonight, to go some other areas that you want to consider, counts in that, so that we can have other consider options if you take this area or the other one. So what have you made notes on that you've heard them say so far that you want to kind of take a look at?
I'm gonna redo the proposed lot inventory that I had a couple of months back when I spoke to all of you, and that should answer at least two of those questions. And then there was some rejiggering of the line to one side of the interstate or the other, which I can definitely play with that and give you an idea of what the total cost, if you will, is.
I think there's a long-range opportunity for that block that is south of the pipeline, Lee Road and 24 to the east.
Right.
And I would take it south of Rocky Fork Road as well, of the undeveloped land.
Okay.
And, you know, where we're only impacting, you mentioned 12 or 18 students, something.
It was 18 on that side. Now, as you go closer, as you get closer to Stewart's Creek High School or the campus, those numbers are going up because it becomes more dense around the school. But
Right.
just so you know.
I wouldn't even include, if it'll come back up here,
If you
Martha Lane.
Yeah, if you get closer to like seminary,
Uh-huh,
you're talking about, you know, it jumping
totally, yeah.
way up.
Leave that Stewart's Creek.
Okay.
Leave Martha Lane, Stewart's Creek. But take that which is undeveloped, and let's forecast it toward Rocky Fork.
Okay.
If an interchange ever happens there, oh my goodness. You know, that's 200 houses in those fields.
Would you like to do that before Wednesday night? I mean, before we show it to people?
I personally would, because I mean, I think that with the school complex being so close to the interstate, having the interstate as the western boundary seems a little arbitrary, and essentially what we're doing is undeveloped land, you know, to just bring it across there. Is there a transportation issue that you would caution us with? And the pipeline is going to always give us a buffer, whether the neighborhoods connect or not. There's going to be a perceivable buffer there that's going to divide those neighborhoods, even if there's interconnectivity.
Mr. Blair, how about yours? Do you want that changed
Well-
before Wednesday night?
I would just like to, and this may be just for me only, Mr. Morgan.
Yes, sir.
Is to kind of look at squaring this up a little bit and putting Seven Oaks and putting that Chicken Pike, changing that back to Smyrna Middle. And I don't know how many students are in that Stewart's Valley Drive and Bragg Avenue, but I don't know, I'd just like to see just the squaring, just for my own personal knowledge, if I may. No, no, sir. No, it's, Seven Oaks is, according to this, Seven Oaks is in Smyrna Middle. I was talking about Seven Oaks,
No, actually.
Stewart's Creek.
Stewart's Creek.
is it Stewart's Creek?
Is south of it, see the SCM out there at the side.
Oh, okay.
So if we do that, and there are 90 kids in there, you're talking about reducing the size of Stewart's Creek by 90 more.
Be 600 and something.
That's right.
Well,
And increasing the.
but you would
school
take
by
the
90.
Chicken Pike area. That may be a transportation issue, you know, I'm just kind of
And
thinking.
taking the Chicken Pike area out, that block to the bottom right?
Yes, sir, moving it, like a big jigsaw puzzle.
Yes, sir, it sure is. But, and one thing I want to caution you on too, that 104 contains some of the demographic as far as free and reduced lunch that were affecting, I mean, we literally went down and peeled that out because of what it did to Smyrna Middle School.
And I think what we're trying to do is just have our mind set on that particular argument, because that's some of the criticism that we'll probably receive because of the way it's
Absolutely.
cut.
And draw your eye to that kind of that square area between Enid Springs down to 102, and then between Old Nashville and 41, basically that white area that I've left out there. I hope that you understand the reason that that was left out is because the school sits right in the center.
Right.
There was no way to touch that without really driving some parents crazy.
I can see the school, I can't go there?
Yeah, exactly.
Once upon a time, David Ure didn't sit in its own zone when I was principal there, I can tell you that. Everything around it was somewhere else. So we have done that once upon a time.
So if you'd lived in the school, you wouldn't have gone to school there?
No. They were bussed in.
Board, of course, this is seemingly reasonably complicated, really, and I was trying to give you plenty of time to make sure that you had any questions, and we had sent Ms. Morgan with what we needed him to do. Is there anything else that any board member wants to say?
I noticed Blackman Middle School was still way overcrowded there. Is there any way to take some of that potential development land that's still in that zone and put it in Stewart's Creek?
Say that one more time.
Blackman Middle School, some of that property right there on the left side of the zone, it's undeveloped. We zone some of that over to Stewart's Creek. It's
That's not a bad suggestion, Coy.
Right there at Baker Road, is that what you're talking about?
Shirley Road, I think, so, yeah. Be on the left side of that green line there. I don't know if there's any development going on right there, but if there is, if there's potential development there, that probably needs to go over to Stewart's Creek. And relieve Blackman Middle, because I think it's still the fastest growing school we got in middle school, 93 this last time.
It was 7.6%, that's what it's showing on that.
That's just something I thought we'd look at if we could.
I'll definitely have it ready for you.
Where they go to high school?
Those go to Stewart's Creek.
I think that's an excellent suggestion, Coy.
I agree. I think that's terrific. It wouldn't take anybody, wouldn't make anybody mad because there's nobody there now. But it would slow
That
down,
doesn't mean they won't be.
it'd slow down the future growth. Well, they would know ahead of time, though, if we did that.
Mr. Young, you get to take the place of Doris Jernigan. He loved maps.
times.
Right now, right there, on the Baker Road portion, that is actually, and I know this is not what you're talking about, but just to give you an idea what's around it, that's inside the current Stewart's Creek zone, there are 14. Below, and I have a feeling that's in that, trying to think of the name of it, there's a subdivision, Legends, no, not Legends.
What are you talking about?
Right there
1 Mile
behind the
Lane?
VFW, what's that subdivision?
Oh, the Bragg? That's the,
Lennox Village, that's it. The front section of that takes up 14, and then the side you're more concerned with, there are 33. That includes Shirley and Lee Avenue, all the way down to Burleson. But I'll definitely work it into something.
Yeah, just
The
give it the
suggestions.
opportunity. I don't know if it is or not. but-
Okay. The, I guess the one piece of guidance that I really want is, do you want all these areas that you've spoken about to be in one plan? Or do you want me to work one up for you and one up for you and one up for you? For the different areas that
I
you've
think you
spoken
almost
about?
have to keep them separated, don't you?
That'd be fine.
Some of us are more easily confused than others.
And of course, you know, I can show you how much, you know, because I use little census blocks to kind of glom together. We've done this for a while, but I can provide you that too, and you can count up as many as you want. And then I can tell you how it's affected by the demographics.
You can actually bring the program in here and
I could, I don't like to, because if something, you
follow the
know,
lines and do it.
yeah.
It's a little
I don't
bit-
like to because, you know, how demonstrations are.
We can also go visit him, because I've done that before too, just to make sure that I was on the same page.
As many changes as we can make to get as many public hearings in before, the better off we're gonna be. I mean, if we're gonna add to, the quicker we go ahead and add to, so that there are multiple public hearings for that, the better off we're gonna be for you in the contact with people. So,
Mr. Young, tell me again where you were talking about in that area you're talking about into the Blackman Middle Zone. You're talking about Shirley, and I heard all the way to Lee Road.
Yeah, I was just looking at this undeveloped land, it looks like on the left side of this green line that borders Shirley Road, looking at seeing if we could not move that
You're
on.
not talking about going into current
Well, if
streets in Blackman Zone.
I mean, if they're already going to Blackman, I'd rather not get into that. If we're getting into areas that's, the kids are already zoned Blackman, they're going to Blackman, I'd rather not touch that.
That was what I was confused about. I didn't know whether or not you were talking about going into Blackman Zone and bringing
No.
in, or just this land that you're talking about.
I'm just talking about undeveloped land. If there's undeveloped land there that could be potential,
So moving the line
Subdivisions.
over to Shirley Road.
yeah, basically.
Okay.
At the moment that are attending Blackman Middle School.
It's a small neighborhood, but there's a neighborhood there. It's if you go past Baker, Shirley's on the right, and right across the street from that is a small, like family gas station. And there is a decent sized neighborhood on both sides of the road, Old Nashville Highway.
I'm just trying to keep Blackman from growing anymore. I mean, we've got enough there already.
Again, you're just saying move that green line and let Shirley Road be the
Be the boundary.
There's not anything on that side.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty specific area. I'd have
Yeah.
to look and see exactly how many students you're talking about.
Further comments from anybody? Otherwise, I see adjournment approaching.
So these options that we talked about this evening, will receive them Wednesday? Or
I can
Friday?
have them for you as early as tomorrow afternoon,
Okay.
but, I mean, I don't, what
So-
the protocol is for that.
I guess what, my question, what are we showing Wednesday night? That's my question. If y'all want to go ahead and include some of this, is sometimes it's easier to get more and then back away than it is to add later. But I don't-
But I think the consensus is, for Mr. Young's suggestion, I think everybody wants to see that happen, so no matter what else, I think we'd want to move that line to Shirley.
Well, and also, the area that there's not really anything developed, I don't see any
Right.
reason why we couldn't take what you're talking about and go ahead and paint that in as going to Rocky Fork too, and show that Wednesday night. To me, it makes sense.
As far as the numbers, if you could just send those to us, then we could look at those.
Okay.
Just to be better informed.
Yeah, I guess can these changes be made tomorrow and then email them out to us and we'd have a chance to look at them before the meeting?
Absolutely.
Those are the only two specific changes that I think we just kind of bantered around what ifs, but those are the only two.
Ms. Moore?
Thank you. I do have a question, and we're talking about Blackman, and I'm looking at these current enrollment numbers, and I'm looking at Blackman Middle School. We're bursting at the seams, aren't we?
We
Yeah.
built that addition, and that's the only thing they've got.
Is it handling that 1,300? Because I know there's a lot of building going on in the Blackman area too. So if they're already bordering on overcrowding, I don't know if that's something that's got to be addressed at this zoning or what, but it looks like it's going to have to be addressed at some point.
They're fairly comfortable with the 1,300 they have right now, but how long that goes on. But your other problem is that Rockvale Middle doesn't have a lot of extra capacity either because you almost got to cascade them back to Christiana and Rockvale, but mostly Rockvale because that's the closest. Rockvale Middle, see right now, has 951. They didn't grow as much this time, grew by 16 right now, what it's showing, I think. Yeah.
Rockvale is?
I mean, you could move some of Blackman if you think you want to. We just need to let it be known pretty quickly, probably. If we wanted to pull some.
I don't know that I don't know if that's the solution or not. I just was looking at that number and concerned and wondering what thoughts are, if it needs to be addressed in this.
Well, we do run into the problem that he brought out earlier in the specific case of Blackman, is that so many of these students live so close to the school. And they made it pretty clear to us last time that they didn't like driving by that school to go somewhere else. And I see their point. But 1,300 is, I know we built there, and I'm aware of that, but that's a lot of youngsters.
One of the largest middle schools in the state happens to be over at Mount Juliet in Wilson County. Like their middle school's like 15 something, I think, close to 1,600. So you're talking about building it's really, really large.
Is there anything else that a board member would like to see at least added or discussed tomorrow, I guess? At least getting figures tomorrow, right? By email, that's the plan?
Yes, sir.
Tonight has not been criticism whatsoever.
Not at all.
We
Oh, no.
marvel at what you're able to put together, but just trying to prepare for whatever questions that comes that'll come our way during the public hearing.
We need many eyes looking at it, and then you still do not necessarily see it all.
Well, speaking of that, this will be a very transparent process, of course, and it's going to take at least 6 meetings, and this is the first of those. The next one will be at Rock Springs Middle School, Wednesday night, and public hearing at 6:30, because we are on television tonight. I understand we will not be that night, but we are tonight, and letting the public know. And we are very interested in what the public has to say. I've never been to these meetings before sitting here. I have sat out there and watched the process and sympathized with you all, and I want that sympathy to continue. But at any rate, we'll do the best we can, and we'll meet at Rock Springs Middle for a public hearing on the September 28th, which is Wednesday night.
Chairman, what is our method for getting the word out, and how far is our reach? I think that may be a James Evans kind of question.
I think so, or,
Did
yes.
some more today.
So in our parent newsletter that went out a week ago, I told them about the full schedule, went to every parent. I've also asked the 3 principals at the middle school to advertise it to their parents, and then actually this evening I sent home another message to the feeder schools, the elementary schools that will feed into the middle schools, and those 3 middle schools, reminding them of the upcoming public hearings, the 3 that we have, and all the other meetings, and which ones were televised versus which ones were not, so they could listen from home if they want to.
Excellent. I think that's sufficient.
Anything else, lady or gentleman? Well, if not, thank you for your considerable efforts, not just tonight, but always. We appreciate it. We are adjourned.